Good evening. I'm Jeff Groves.
And I'm Ann Loader.
And welcome to this month's edition of Police Beat. First of all, I'd like to welcome Ann to the Police Beat program. Ann was selected as the new co-host after quite a bit of an exhaustive search. Welcome, Ann.
It's great to be here, Jeff.
And tonight we're here in the City of Fort Collins Service Center where we're going to look at vehicles.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to looking at the new vehicles because I'm being assigned a new patrol car shortly.
And one of the new things about her car will be the fact that it's propane powered, and that's what this month's show is on. With us on tonight's show is Ken Mannon, Director of Fleet Services for the City of Fort Collins. And Ken has been with the city about 20 years. Ken, thank you for being on the show tonight.
Thank you.
Ken, I know that the last couple of years the City of Fort Collins has actively pursued alternative fuels in its vehicles. And we're in fact in front of a propane-powered police van. Can you kind of start us off with some background information and tell us how the city came to explore these alternative fuels and vehicles?
Yeah, Jeff, back in the early 80s, the city was looking for ways to reduce the dependency on foreign oils. And we started out back then doing compressed natural gas. We were running about 65 vehicles back there on natural gas. And we did that, and in the same time we were doing the natural gas, we were testing propane vehicles. Once the issue with the dependency on foreign oils, or trying to reduce, or the shortage of the fuel went away, we kind of dropped off on a lot of the stuff that we were doing on the alternative fuels because the cost of the conversions or the outdated conversions and stuff we were starting to have trouble with, and there wasn't an awful lot of state-of-the-art equipment out there at that point. And we started playing a little bit with propane. We still wanted to continue with what can we do to try to reduce, or that's something that we've always tried to do, is reduce the dependency on the unleaded gasoline. And what we decided to try was the propane. We started doing some of the propane conversion kits with the utilities, and what we were finding is not only was it cutting back on what we were using in unleaded fuel, but it was also reducing the emissions. So we were looking at it from a different aspect and started to attack it from there. We found out that some of the problems that we had with the compressed natural gas was trying to find a place to store the tanks, the short range, and some of these issues, and we found that propane addressed an awful lot of those. One of the complaints that we had, if you remember back when we were using compressed natural gas in the police cars, was a performance issue. When you were running on the CNG, you'd have to push and pull cables, and you'd have to take in...
Yeah, I remember it well.
Yeah. So it's kind of an issue with trying to catch the speeders or the bad guys, trying to convert, and sometimes the cars would die, and some of these issues. And we found that once we went to propane, a lot of those problems went away. We were able to actually propane has basically the same characteristics as gasoline, or as far as performance and range. So we started running more vehicles in this area. Once some of the bigger cities started doing the mandates, I think right now most of the bigger cities have to convert 10% of all new vehicles that they bring into their fleet. And what we wanted to do was be proactive and work as a group and try to get to that point before we were mandated to do this type of stuff. And we kept pushing with the equipment board the use of propane, and we started feeding a lot of the different departments test vehicles to let them see how much better the vehicles ran on propane, what the cost of the conversions were, and a lot of these issues, and it's just picked up from there.
So Ken, on the comments you made about the fleet size, with the city, how many cars do we have in our entire fleet?
Actually, we've got about 300 cars right now. We've got 100 of them that are converted to propane right now. So our end goal is to try to convert all those vehicles as they're being replaced.
Okay, and I as an officer am curious about all the new police cars that are coming in. They are going to be propane.
Yeah, we got 21 new cars right now that we're getting ready to convert.
Okay. In another comment you made about conversions, what's the cost when we're converting the vehicles over?
The cost of the conversions right now are costing us anywhere from $1,800 to about $2,500 per unit, depending upon how many tanks we have to put on for capacity.
Okay. And when I compare as just a regular Joe Schmo citizen, when I go buy gasoline compared to propane, what are we saving when we're filling up our tanks?
Actually, the cost of propane on an average is usually about 50% of the cost of unleaded fuel. Current price right now, as the cost of unleaded goes down, propane goes up, and in the summertime as unleaded goes up, propane goes down. Our average cost right now is about 62 cents a gallon.
That's great.
So again, one of the big comments we always get from officers, and since we're putting police cars online, we have 8 police cars that are online with propane already, and the other 21 are coming, as you just said, is performance. I mean, we've got to be able to catch the speeders, we've got to be able to respond to emergency calls and that kind of thing. What's the performance factor of propane?
Actually, what we're finding is with the new fuel-injected vehicles that we're converting now, the performance is pretty much like. A lot of times what they tell you is you can anticipate about a 10% reduction in horsepower, but right now we're not finding that. We're finding that it performs just as well as the unleaded gasoline.
I know another side benefit that we have from propane is the maintenance schedule on the cars. The time factor or the mileage factor used to be, say, about 3,500 for oil changes on cars. Is that right?
Right. We've actually boosted up our oil changes to 5,000 on regular vehicles, but we're up to 7,000 on the propane. Propane burns so clean that it doesn't dilute the fuel, and you're able to run a lot further on both tune-ups and oil changes.
Ken, you were talking about costs and how much it costs to convert with the conversions and everything. Are there any kind of incentives for the city of Fort Collins to change over to propane?
Yeah, one of the things that the state has right now is the governor's got a rebate program that we're able to get up to 35% of the cost of the conversion, depending upon how the vehicles are set up. So, like on a regular police car where it costs us about $2,300 to convert it, we might get $800 back from the state. 50% of that $800 comes from the fuel supplier, and then the other 50% comes from the governor's office.
That's great. So basically we're saving money for the citizens of Fort Collins.
Right. It helps us get our return back on the investment a lot quicker.
Again, on this vehicle, I know that you talked, it's a one-time shot of $1,800 to $2,300 cost plus the rebates and things like that. But this system isn't done when this vehicle's done. This is a 1994 Chevy Astro van, and it lasts 5 years. At the end of the 5th year, what happens to the propane conversion that's in the van?
Well, a lot of the pieces we can still use, Jeff. We can take a lot of the tanks and some of the mixers and that type of stuff and move them on to the next vehicle. So, you know, we've got the use of that thing potentially 10 years. Now, some of the stuff that changes is going to be the computer chips or the computer fixes that helps it run on the propane fuel.
Another topic we really haven't touched on too much, Ken, is what about emissions?
The nice thing about propane is propane emissions is probably about 50% of what it is for unleaded fuel today.
So there's another savings there.
Another savings there also.
Great. Ken, I want to thank you for being with us tonight on the show and talking to us a little bit about propane.
You betcha. Thank you.
Hey Jeff, I didn't know you knew so much about automobiles.
Well, I know oops. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed this month's show. Thanks for watching.
And if any of you would like any more information about propane vehicles, you can call the city at 221-6610.
See you next month.
And drive safe out there.
Somebody stop me.